Did you go to Margaret Daly's townhouse? Have you been in that?
I know. She died in 41, and I don't know what happened to her townhouse.
Did you ever meet her?
Margaret?
Yeah.
Oh God, yes.
So what do you remember about her?
I met her at Riverside in the Bitterroot. I saw her every summer.
What do you remember about her?
Oh God, she was just a wonderful, charming lady, and she would send my sister and I these fabulous Christmas gifts. I mean, from FOA Schwartz, and she was just they would have tea in the afternoon in that upstairs room, where you go up the stairs and it's right there at the left. And it was fun to listen to her talk. And then there was a children's dining room. We never ate with the adults unless it was a special occasion. We were in the in the children's dining room, which is now the office there. And Marcus Daly's the third's nanny, Miss Sharkey, presided, and she was always raising hell with us because of our table manners. But anyway, and everybody dressed for dinner, and they ate in that dining room. And then after dinner, they would all go out and have coffee. The adults would all go out and have coffee in that sun porch. Then we got to go out there, and they always had a box of candy. We'd get one piece, and then Mrs. Daly had a game where you had a tube-like thing with all these little pieces of bamboo in there with numbers, and you'd shake out a one, and it'd have a number on it, and then she had a book, and she'd read out of the book what your fortune was. And one of the things I remember about her was she used to pay. They had a huge crew of people there, John. They had gardeners, and they had a chauffeur. Guy Hill was the chauffeur, and then the guy that ran the stables was Ed Wetherill, and the head gardener was Hennessy or something like that. She'd pay them in cash. She'd put a table out in the lawn and pay them. And of course she was, the one thing I remember vividly, she had a great sense of humor. She gave Tommy Taylor and I some money, and she said, Roosevelt's paying people not to work. You don't work, and I'm going to pay you too.
That's funny.
And
was she a storyteller?
What?
Was she a storyteller?
Yeah. And she, her chauffeur would take her into Hamilton. She had all kinds of business in Hamilton. And every once in a while, it was a real treat, she'd take us along, and then she'd take us into one of the stores in Hamilton and buy us something. Very generous.
So when you went down there, how many summers do you think you were down there?
We went every summer until she died in 41. I was there. Alice and I and Mother were there when she died. John, it was like somebody put a lid on everything. Everything stopped. I mean, everything stopped. And she was in the bed in her bedroom, and we all went and looked at her. They used to have, there was the head maid down there was a gal named Rose something or other from Hamilton. And then there were a lot of these young girls would come down from Hamilton and work in the mansion. They changed the linen every day. They put in fresh flowers all over. They had, the gardeners would bring in flowers, and these young gals from Hamilton and they all wore uniforms, and they put flowers all over the place, and it just seemed that everything stopped when Mrs. Daly died. It was just weird.
Who else was there from her family?
Well, Molly Daly Gerard was there, and I think that was the only member of the family. And I got to know James Gerard. He used to come there quite a bit. And he was a fascinating guy. But what he loved to talk to people there in the Bitterroot Valley. He'd go out and he'd get some. I remember he one time he brought, there was a guy that had apiaries, bees, and made honey. He brought this guy in for dinner. He was always wanting to talk to somebody, and then he with me, for God's sake, John. He'd say, well, here I was 12 years old when Mrs. Daly died. He'd say, now, George, tell me about the politics in Helena. Christ. Yeah. He was a fascinating guy.
Did she prefer lavender or her clothes and bedding? Did she have a preference like that?
I don't know that I paid much attention to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
She always was very well dressed.
Did she ever talk about her business interests? Kept them separate from the family.
The only thing I know is that she bought the bonds that built the Skalkaho Highway. She talked about that.
She did. You mean the road that goes across?
Yeah. They wanted the farmers, the truck farmers and apple farmers and all the people in the Bitterroot wanted to get to Butte to sell their produce, and the quickest, shortest way was over the Skalkaho. And I don't know how it came about, but I can remember her saying that she bought the bonds, that built the Skalkaho Highway.
Must have been revenue.
See, and part of the Skalkaho is, I think the difficult building of the Skalkaho is in Ravalli County, and then on the other side you're in Granite County. But you've been over the Skalkaho, so you know how you go up, and then when you finally get up to the top.
Well, did Gerard come out there all the time? Ambassador Gerard?
Oh, yeah.
How often did he come out?
Oh, he's always there a lot because, as I say, Molly was very close to her mother and was very protective of her mother.
Were they out there every summer?
So they were there every summer. Now, he wasn't there all the time, but she was.
Did they have business interests together?
Well, I think James Gerard, you've read his book.
Right.
They had some interest together, yeah. That's all I know is what I read in his book.
But they never talked about it around the family.
No, they didn't talk business much.
Was it your sense that she? What was important to her?
I think that she was devoted to Marcus III, and Janet, his first wife, and before they were married, was there a lot, and she was a beautiful gal. In fact, that Darlene said that she had been back there visiting recently. He divorced her, and he swapped wives with some guy, for God's sake. And Miss Sharkey was there, who had been the nanny.
Marcus III's nanny?
Marcus III's nanny. Mrs. Daly, I think, was devoted to her family. And I know that she was very concerned about the Ziggrays. And the Brown girls were there. She did not talk about business, but she was awfully close to her family.
So let's go through these then. So Molly Gerard, she was the second oldest of Margaret's. And
Margaret was the oldest,
well, she was
as
the
I
oldest.
understand it, and then Mary or Molly, and then Margaret, Molly, and then Harriet, who was married Zigray, and then of course Marcus the second.
So Molly Gerard is the oldest daughter, and she.
Well, no, Margaret was the oldest.
Okay. She was Margaret Brown. She
married Brown.
And she came out to Montana once in a while, but then she died young, right?
Well, I think she wasn't she born in Butte?
Probably.
All I know is that Dr. Murray took her to the Mayo Clinic because he knew Charles Mayo. See, Dr. Murray was vice president of the American Medical Association, and he also had a professional relationship with Mayo Clinic,
In
because he
Rochester?
sent a lot of his patients there to the Mayo Clinic.
In Rochester?
Yeah, and he was a close friend of Charles Mayo's. And they used to correspond and knew
Well,
each
that
other.
explains why so many people would be going back to the Mayo Clinic from Butte. Everybody was going back there.
Well, it was a good clinic, and then Dr. Murray took Margaret by train to the Mayo Clinic because she had a heart condition, and I think didn't she die when she was 28 or something
Yeah,
like
she was
that?
young, yeah. But